Okay, so if I tell you that we're going to talk about urine and saliva, are you going to stay with us?
It'll
No,
be fun.
you got to understand. I know you're watching or listening to the show because sometimes you never know quite what we're going to say. And I love that. But I'm hoping that you're also, watching and listening because you really want to learn something. And when Scott and I had a phone conversation the other day, and it was stemming from a class he had given, and I said, I had no idea that there was such a difference between urine and saliva when we're talking about drug tests. And so there you go. There you have the backstory of how we are here with Scott Warrick today talking about this most intriguing topic. Scott, I mean, really, how many people ask you about these questions?
Well, not usually, particularly at dinner parties or, in, casual conversation. It's like, hey, you want to talk about spit and urine? Probably not so much, but I'll tell you, that's why you just sit around and talk about stuff because these things come up. And I'll tell you, the reason I got started in this is because if you live in Ohio, and Pandy, we've worked on this. If you live in Ohio, if you're an Ohio employer, the state of Ohio will spend $5,000 in a grant to you to get all of your substance use policies and all this stuff up to date, 100% reimbursed. And we talked about this in the last show. It's like, why would they do that? Well, they do it because they're spending tens of millions of dollars in claims for workers' comp. Well, I mean, first of all, that's the first thing. And if anybody wants to talk about that, I mean, I think free, 100% reimbursed is the right price.
Oh gosh, we don't see that every day.
No, no. And it's like, well, what's the catch? And I get a lot of clients, well, what's the catch? There is no catch. The idea is the Bureau of Workers' Comp for Ohio is literally hemorrhaging money over the drug abuse and alcohol abuse in Ohio. And so this program just started July 1st of 2025. And I will tell you, if you're not taking advantage of this, I don't know what's wrong with you. I
Well,
mean, come on. So, but this brought up the issue of, okay, I got so many clients that are saying, I don't really care if somebody is taking medicinal marijuana or recreational off the job. I really don't care, but I don't want them high at work. And so what we've got to do is we've got to come up with a test. We got to come up with a way of determining if someone is engaging in active use right now, not with your urine. And so let me just kind of explain a little bit. Um, Urine testing is well, first of all, it's messy. Okay, I don't know if you really
not
want
something
to.
you want to do at home.
Yeah, really. And I've got so many clients who are using the test kits, the
Yes.
screening tests at work. And if somebody tests positive for a screening test, you send them for the confirmatory test, or you send the sample for a confirmatory test, which is a more expensive but better test.
Hmm.
What you're actually testing for are the metabolites, the residue of whatever drugs you're testing for that have gone through your kidneys. Now, think about that. If you're testing for like pot, okay, or anything, it's going to go through your kidneys. So you have proof positive that they have used that in the last few days or weeks or something like that. But you've also got proof positive that it's not active in their system.
And that's with the urine test.
That's with the urine test. Yeah, because it's going through their kidneys and you're testing for the residue. Okay, well, that presents a problem if you want to know active
Yeah,
use.
Scott, I want to know if they're using it this morning or while they're working.
That's right. And I've got a lot of clients for that and that are in that boat. And just to add another layer as to why this saliva testing, and I'll just tip my hand, saliva testing tests for active use. You're using it right now. It's going to tell you.
And
And yeah, go ahead.
no, no, no. I'm just sitting here thinking, why in the world would anyone I mean, even in a pre-employment test, why would anyone necessarily want to know what they did 2 weeks ago?
Well, let's talk about that because urine tests have a good place for you. So let's say that you're going to do urine tests in pre employment.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you might not want to hire someone who is, on crack, heroin, all this other stuff. You just, as a general rule, you might not want that. And that's a
Makes
hint,
sense.
hint. Yeah. And that ties way into our last discussion on negligent retention or negligent hiring.
Hmm.
Okay. So urine is great for giving you a history. It's perfect for giving you a history of whether or not someone is using. And so there's a good place for that. That, okay, we're going to do a test in the workplace. I've got some clients that do random. If you're DOT, there's a whole separate set of rules for your
Yeah.
policy you got to have in place. Well, you need that history.
Yeah.
You need that history. But let's say that someone is in a bad workers' comp accident. Let's just say, and you're going to be looking at a lot of money. Okay, we want to know if this was active use. Is this active? Then don't use a urine test because you're going to prove that it's past use. Now, so you see, if you ever want to know, are my employees high right now? Are they using right now, which is going to come in really important if it's a workers' comp claim and you want to fight it. All right. So, what you do is you need to be set up for both, for both. And so, let's look at the pros and cons. With a saliva test, there's a little swab that you got, and not to play favorites, but I will tell you right now, Quest has been very cooperative with me. They've gone through all the stuff they've got. They've got an easy kit, and you can just go into the office, into administration. You open up this kit, you swab their cheek a little bit, and you wait a few minutes, and it tells you if it's positive. Okay, now you've got a positive test for active use. Okay. So what do? You now send them to the lab for the real test. All right, for the confirmatory test. And so you need to do a little homework here to get this set up that the lab you send them to or the hospital you're sending them to does the saliva test. And so you send them, and that saliva test is proof positive that this is active use. So you see, if you want to catch somebody for reasonable suspicion of drugs for active use, you got to be using the saliva test, not the urine test. And reasonable suspicion for active use would be whenever I suspect somebody is looking a little funny. And I understand you don't just say, "Well, I think Bill's looking a little funny today." No, the person who does taps them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, you know, I think we need to go to the office here. I'm seeing some strange things." That person has to be trained.
Thank you.
Otherwise, your defense, otherwise, it's like, well, how'd you know? Well, I don't like Bob. Okay. I don't like Bob. I mean, Bob ticks me off. Okay. Or no, do you know what you're looking for? And then this is one of those things you and I have talked about. It's got to be documented.
Yeah.
And documentation absolutely has to be written down. So I've got a form that I use that's a big checklist. It's just one sheet. Your supervisors have to be trained in that they know what to check off. So you don't have to write a bunch of stuff out. They put the employee's name and they go and they check off like, drooling, unsteady when they're walking, blurry eyes, or something like this, slurred speech, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's your documentation. So let's just say you have somebody that loses a little finger and you're gonna go, okay, you're gonna go to some place to get them tested. You want to make sure that you are swabbing their mouth, and you can swab their mouth on the way out. Okay, you can do that, but where you're sending them, make sure you're already set up for saliva testing, and that will give you active use for a workers' comp claim. If it's reasonable suspicion, you just bring them in the office, you swab their mouth, and you're good to go. If they test positive, you send them for the real test. Now, the real good thing about saliva testing is there is only one way to adulterate a saliva test. Just one. They have to gargle with rubbing alcohol. Now, that is somebody who really wants to pass the drug test. Okay. So, uh, I've had people say, well, what if they gargle after you catch them, after you talk to them? No, you go up to your employee. Let's say you go up to Stan. Stan, come on. And I need to talk to you for a few minutes. This is different behavior. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. No, you don't leave my chain of custody. You're not
Yeah.
going to leave my site.
Yeah.
And I've had somebody say, well, what if they gargle with like bourbon or something like this? Look, maybe 45% of that bourbon is alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is 90%. Have you ever gargled with rubbing alcohol? I mean, that's pretty nasty. There are 50 plus ways to adulterate a urine test. It's big business, big business. So, urine tests are great for getting a history of what this person is doing, and that has a great place in drug testing, particularly for heroin or something like this.
Mhm.
But if you want active use, there's only one name to use: saliva test, and you got to work this out ahead of time. And that's what you and I are setting up with our clients, that we're working together on, so that they can save on workers' comp if it's necessary. And I'll tell you, I've never seen an employer who didn't want to test somebody who looked funny.
Well, let's back up here a little bit. I want you to elaborate on the importance of having a policy
Oh,
that permits and forewarns the employee that as an employer, we have the right to exercise reasonable suspicion. We have the right to do a random because they can't just decide, to your point, they just walk up to somebody and go, oh, yeah, you're acting strange. We're going to send you for a drug test.
right, right. And you unpack so many good things here. Is absolutely positively, before you start doing any of this stuff, you have to make sure that you got a proper policy in place. Now, just take for example, well, the good thing about this new Ohio BWC program, this substance use prevention recovery, it's called the super program, SUPR, that I'm working with my clients on. And again, all this is free for them. You got to define what you mean by reasonable suspicion.
Yes.
Well, this is actually easy, and I've seen so many policies that aren't worth the paper they're written on. Take it right from the law. The law is going to give you a list of about a dozen things that you would probably think are unfair, like slurred speech or the same the same symptoms of bad allergies can get you a drug test. Absolutely. But you want right in that policy that the person making the call for you to go get tested has been trained. And so what I've done, and I'll tell you, it's I got clients that are all in one location, but I've also got some that are spread across 20 states.
Yes.
So what I did was I put together a series of videos that people watch at any given time. They then sign off that they've watched them. Yeah, they could lie, but you get their signature that they've watched them. I've got clients that bring supervisors in. They watch it as a group and talk to them. Specifically in that training is how to spot reasonable suspicion. And you use the form and things like this. So you're setting yourself up for a good legal defense. And if you don't have a proper policy, if you don't have proper procedures in place, if these people haven't been trained, if I was the employee's attorney, well, I'd blow holes all through you. That your drug test wasn't legal, that you are picking on this person for this reason. You got to do your homework first. And there's two types of testing that I recommend for everybody. One is reasonable suspicion. And honestly, that's a negligent retention thing. You got somebody acting funny and you don't do something, you're in trouble.
Hmm.
And is post accident with reasonable suspicion. Now, you can do just post accident, but I want post accident with reasonable suspicion, because if somebody is in an accident and there could be a workers' comp injury. Man, I want that reasonable suspicion with it, and I want that saliva test so I'm ready for the BWC hearing to show we documented this. These people have been trained. We got a proper legal policy in place. They violated it. They're denied workers' comp.
You know,
Now,
I
nothing's a slam dunk, but it's a good argument.
no, and I actually had a case 20 some years ago where an individual got injured on the job,
Mm-hmm.
called in and said, "I'm going to run into to the hospital." And they said, "Okay, but you got to do that post-accident drug test." Once he got there, he did test for marijuana. But the court, when they tried to deny the workers' comp and they fired him and the whole thing, the court came back and said, "Well, why would you send him for a post-accident? You had no reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
You didn't have a policy, and
Yeah.
you weren't there to see him. You didn't have a member of authority there to see him. You just
Right.
automatically pulled it." And of course they lost. They had to give him back his job. Well, that that could have been so easily prevented. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the part that I really struggle with sometimes is that these small little things that slip between the cracks. And Scott, let's be truthful. An individual doesn't have to live in Ohio to take advantage of your knowledge on substance
Oh,
abuse or to help them write a policy.
no, I've got clients in about 48 states and Puerto Rico. They haven't paid for a trip for me to go to Puerto Rico yet, but we're
You need to
waiting.
work on that.
I do have to work on that, but
Yeah.
no, this is and Ohio ranks about sixth or seventh in the most abused substances. But
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you, Pennsylvania, they're way up there. And honestly, this epidemic of drugs in our society now is still we're still paying the price from the Sackett family and OxyContin.
Yeah.
So they specifically targeted Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. But I got clients in Oklahoma. I got them in California where, oh yeah, no state is immune from this. And the other thing too, with a good testing program in place and a good policy in place, you encourage people to come forward because you show them what this is doing to your body. And what I like to do is I like to show them, okay, you think this doesn't affect anybody else? You think that what you do on your own time is your own business? This will destroy your brain faster than just about anything.
And you've
I mean,
got books
that's a difference.
talking about that. You've got books
Oh,
that prove all of that. Look,
yeah.
substance abuse is, and sometimes it's not the employee, it's a struggle they're having at home with their family, and they just get tangled up in it. So take this seriously, understand, and go back and ask, are we doing saliva or are we doing urine tests? And
Yeah.
really think through, what are you trying to gain by doing any of these tests. Scott, you're wonderful. You're wonderful. I love when you talk about these things. You're so passionate. And if you want to actually have a private conversation with him, reach out at scott@scottwarrick.com, or
Yeah.
you can catch him on LinkedIn. But we love having you on here. Thank you so much for coming by.
Oh, I love it. It's a high point of my day.
Well, I hope you enjoy the show. Please, you come back right here at the Human Resource.